Let's go. I'm looking at you right now. Does Sam Pittman deserve another season at Arkansas? I have a shocking little quip from a national reporter who I respect quite a bit. But the first thing I want to get out of the way here is the thumbnail image. I truly do believe Malachi Singleton should start versus Louisiana Tech. Now, I have been labeled someone that has been more pro Taylon Green than what I should be. And look, I have been very critical of Taylon Green in film studies, and this Texas game was more of the same from Taylon. But what I want to be crystal clear about is the decision for me for Malachi Singleton to start versus Louisiana Tech has more to do with playing versus a weaker team and seeing what you potentially have. I do not think you could get a good read on a quarterback unless you start them or they play an elongated period of time in any game where the game is actually close. So Malachi Singleton, the only time we have really gotten to see him play an elongated time versus a team where the game is still close was when Taylon Green got hurt versus Tennessee. So for me, I think at some point you do yourself a disservice never actually seeing him start before you make any decision about your quarterback of the future. So if you are Sam Pittman and you are going to return next season, the likelihood, if you are to return next season, is that you're going to be running it back with Taylon Green. And I get it. If you are to come back next season, it is easier to sell a returning starter at quarterback than someone you know nothing about. But that's the thing. You don't know what Malachi Singleton can give you unless you actually see it. And here's my thing. The only reason I would do this is because Taylon Green has not proven up to this point that he is by far the best quarterback on this team, right? It's nearly impossible to know that unless you actually see Malachi Singleton play. So understand, I am extremely pro Taylon Green being the guy next season because with that much experience and that much snaps and quarterback being an older person's game in college football, you want Taylon Green to return as your starter. But you know nothing, absolutely zero zip zilch nada about Malachi Singleton until you actually see him be the starter and announce that he is the starter throughout the whole week of practice. See how the team reacts to him being the starter. See how a game plan is actually built around Malachi Singleton being the starter. See how Malachi Singleton reacts to the defense being prepared to play him instead of Taylon Green. You cannot know anything about him until you actually see it. And the guy that has done this, and guess what, never gets credit for this. And I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of this person, but what I would share with you is Jim Harbaugh has done this, and he did it successfully at Michigan. So for those that are not familiar, a few years ago, Jim Harbaugh made a very, very controversial decision to announce 2 weeks before the season begins, I am going to start one quarterback in our season opener and predetermine start our other quarterback in week number 2. So Michigan had 2 quarterbacks. They had Cade McNamara, who was older, and they had J.J. McCarthy, who was younger. And before the season began, Jim Harbaugh said, I don't know who my best quarterback is. It is impossible for me to know. So what I'm going to do is give both of them a shot to prove themselves. Now, Michigan, if I remember correctly, played a stronger team in week 1 than they did in week 2. They did. But that's more reason to actually start Malachi Singleton. If he were to be the better of the two options at quarterback. Guess what? He would prove it versus Louisiana Tech, who is playing better football, but they're not that good. They're not that good. Okay, I'll just tell you that up front. Are they okay? Yeah. Am I pulling for Louisiana Tech? Yeah. I love Ruston. I always cheer for the upset if it's not my team. Plus, I also want it to be a competitive game. But for the sake of you and my fans and friends of the channel, I would want Arkansas to win this game and not have to deal with more heartbreak. But I think it's stupid to not start Malachi Singleton this week. Yeah, I heard that. You heard that correctly. Stupid. Stupid. Okay? You know what you're going to get out of TAYLEN GREEN. And with TAYLEN GREEN, you're for sure going to win the game. But give Malachi Singleton a full half, and that shuts up every fan that thinks they know more than you, Sam Pittman. It shuts up every YouTuber like myself who thinks they know what they're talking about. And for the record, I do think starting TAYLEN GREEN for every game up to this point is the better option. But I have seen some things from Malachi Singleton to make me think, well, look, in the offseason, without you seeing him in game reps, he cleanly beat out Jacoby Criswell. What has Jacoby Criswell done since then? Well, he's been the starter at North Carolina. He's not looked bad. So if we know Jacoby Criswell is not terrible, and based on your eye test, Singleton beat him out cleanly, then that shows you that you think he has talent. He also showed you some things in garbage time versus Ole Miss, and he did, and it was lucky in many ways because Tennessee let him score, but he did show some promise versus the Volunteers. Let's see what he does when the bullets are actually flying. I cannot repeat this enough. Coaches get this stuff wrong all the time. They get it wrong all the time. You honestly, a good chunk of the time, don't start the right quarterback from the get-go. Take a look at some of the best quarterbacks of the past couple of seasons in college football. Who are some of those guys? Well, the best quarterback at Tennessee in the Josh Heupel era was Hendon Hooker. You know something about Hendon Hooker? He was not the starter. He was not the starter. Think about that. Hendon freaking Hooker. How many SEC quarterbacks over the past couple of seasons have been better than Hendon Hooker? Jane Daniels is one. And there's really only a few others. They were starting Joe Milton over Hendon Hooker at Tennessee. At Georgia, they started JT Daniels over Stetson Bennett. One couldn't make it at Rice. The other will have a freaking statue in the next 10 years built of him on Georgia's campus as a two-time national championship winning quarterback. You don't know who your best guy is. Now, based on my own analysis, I think TAYLEN GREEN's better. I think he has higher upside. He's also older. Okay? But give it a shot. See what you have. See what you have. It's free. It's free. Okay? And you could just publicly state that. Hey, we're just going to see what we have. Nothing against TAYLEN. He's won us some games. And it's somewhat justified. Because the film versus Texas wasn't good for TAYLEN GREEN. In my mind, it wasn't good. So, it makes no sense that more coaches don't do this. It makes no sense to not at least see what you have. See what you have. You're going to win. And my thing is this. Well, if Sam Pittman was sitting here, it's like, well, we don't want to mess around. Louisiana Tech is a respectable opponent, and we're at 5 wins. A bowl game's great. I understand Sam Pittman's coaching for his job right now. And I also understand if you were to start Malachi Singleton and he balls out, then a lot of people would say, well, Sam Pittman made the wrong decision all along and lives like an idiot. But I would feel the exact opposite if I were a fan of Arkansas. That means a coach is willing to be open-minded. And something else I would bring up for people that have the logic of, well, we don't want to mess around. We want to get to the 6th win. We want to get the bowl game. It's good for the program. Well, this would be my response to each and every one of you that feel this way. You shouldn't be going to a bowl if you can't beat Louisiana Tech with the backup quarterback. Hell, you should be able to beat Louisiana Tech with the 3rd stringer. It's just simple. It's just simple logic. Anyone that hears me out will completely change your mind. I am so certain about this. And I'm not an Arkansas fan. I have no dog in the game. Okay? This is more me standing on principle. And I have been very vocal about this for my own LSU team. I have suggested this for Garrett Nussmeier. I've suggested this for Jaden Daniels. I've suggested it for a lot of different quarterbacks. See what you have in your backup. Doesn't mean you have to start them. And you're telling me it's not better for the long run of Texas football that Quinn Ewers got hurt and you got to see what you had with Arch Manning in starts versus ULM and Mississippi State? It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me that more coaches don't do it. Now, before we get into the Sam Pittman rumors, let's go to 360 because we do have a guest coming up. One of my favorite guests. I think, honestly, top 5 guests I've ever had on any of my networks. You're going to love them. We're going to chat some high school football. How about that? Taylen has had his chance. He has not improved. He's made the same mistakes game after game. He's not worth whatever amount they're paying him. Yeah, and I understand that's part of it too because boosters are going to say, hey, I want to start the guy that we paid the money to. Let's go to Skip's Corner. I fear Singleton may leave if he doesn't get an opportunity. All right. I push back on this logic as well. Okay. If a quarterback wanted to leave, don't let the door hit you out the door. Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out, or whatever the phrase is. All right. My logic here has nothing to do with Singleton's personal feelings, but it has more to do what is better for your program in the long run. The fact that you do not want to see what you have when it's basically free is crazy to me. But yeah, you should fear Malachi Singleton go to the portal. Mr. C wants Isaac Tesla to start over Tyrone Broden. I will say, you guys are right about Broden. I defended Broden early in the season because he had a ridiculous catch versus Oklahoma State that was stupidly not reviewed by the Arkansas coaching staff, or at least forced to be reviewed. I've defended Broden, but boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I wrong. He is just hot dog water. Okay, that drop was huge. I do think Taylen should have scrambled. I do think there were some better options on that play. But you got to make that catch. And it also didn't help that he slipped on the first drive of the game, where if he doesn't slip, you're probably getting a PI or he's catching the ball. Broden's had a tough year after that viral one-headed catch in fall. And Tesla should play over him. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I'll also say this. Boy, was I right about Arkansas covering the spread versus Texas. Now, I did pick Arkansas to win the game, but I felt pretty good about Arkansas covering versus Texas. And, God, you left plenty of plays on the field. Texas is not that good. Because Quinn Ewers, if there's any Texas fans that are watching this right now, and they have come after me on Twitter, Quinn Ewers is ass. He is ass. But the Texas fans are at my neck. If I were being truthful for what I truly feel about Texas, I would say Quinn Ewers is the best thing. Keep him out there as he misses wide open receivers. I don't like Texas at all. I'm giving you an unbiased opinion on who I think should be. Now, I say it's unbiased. I've always shared my love for the Mannings, in particular Peyton, who is my favorite quarterback of all time, biases aside. So that doesn't include Saints quarterbacks, and that doesn't include LSU quarterbacks. And I understand Peyton has ties with the Saints, with his dad, obviously, and him being from New Orleans. But even if that were not the case, I've just always loved Peyton Manning. Okay. So, yes, I am biased towards Arch because if your last name is Manning, I'm going to be a fan. I've always been a fan of the Mannings. Okay. But I really do think Arch is a better option. I do. I think Quinn, if anyone that actually watches football would actually watch the games, it's hard for you to sell me on Quinn Ewers at this point. But what do I know? And I understand some people saying, well, you should just ride it out with Quinn. He's a more experienced guy. And he did have a good playoff game versus Washington. So maybe his best ball is ahead of him. But I don't know. Now, we get to Mr. C. Do you think they're talking about keeping Sam Pittman because they think the NIL is about to blow? Okay. I'm going to tell you one person that will help keep Sam Pittman around, and it's not who you probably think it is, okay? So this is Brandon Marcello talking about the Arkansas job. He is very connected with Arkansas. Arkansas gives him a lot of access for some of his reports. This was one of the more bizarre radio segments here with First Round Live.
Sam Pittman is now at 5-5. They've got a game that will get them bowl eligible in all likelihood Saturday against Louisiana Tech. Is that enough for Sam Pittman? Making a bowl, is he okay there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Does he? I mean, we'll see. He's got hip surgery coming up at the end of the season.
Okay.
He's had 5 years at Arkansas. His best year was mostly with Chad Morris players. He's got a reasonable, if not a little bit high, buyout. He doesn't want to coach forever. We'll see.
Okay. Heavy hints from Brendan there.
There's a lot. There's a lot of chatter still behind the scenes at Arkansas, and obviously this week's big for him. I mean, you can't lose Louisiana Tech and then maybe expect to still be back or say, hey, come back as our coach. But there's a lot of with any big time, I say big time program, SEC program, there's a lot of parts in the machine, a lot of gears in the machine that are even outside the athletics department. And some things you can't control, some things you can control with boosters and all that. And I think it's unpredictable at this moment, I'll tell you.
Okay.
That's my read on the situation. And I live here. I know a lot of people. It's a little unpredictable right
It bears.
I didn't know Brandon Marcello lives in Northwest Arkansas. I really didn't. That was a weird report. It was a lot of stuttering. And what does that mean exactly? Well, it means he's walking on eggshells in many ways, but it also means that he truly is befuddled about what's going to happen next. All right. I thought it was interesting that he brought up the hip surgery. I thought it was also interesting that Sam Pittman talked about not coaching for forever. This is my read on Sam Pittman's future. Okay. And I want everyone to be measured here. Before last season, I met with Sam at an event, and I look, and I rarely feel this way when talking to a coach, but I've seen it. I've seen it with other coaches that I've met with in the past, and so on and so on, at all different levels of football, might I add. It is so easy to get burnt out in the football coaching profession. It is so unfreaking believably easy. I felt before, not this year, but the year before, that he was burnt. Okay. I really did. I felt like this guy just doesn't have it in him anymore. because it's hard. It's hard. I mean, coaching is hard, and it takes a lot out of you, especially at a program like this. And honestly, just 1 year of the amount of money that he's making when you are retiring to a lake house in Hot Springs, Arkansas, is more than enough to live on. Okay. So I have always felt over the past couple of seasons, factor in as well the pain that he's going through with his hip, that he is perfectly fine with everything that he has accomplished as a coach. And he has accomplished quite a bit. All the draft picks, all the bowl wins, all the success, all the money. And like many coaches that, and Sam Pittman's not old, but like many coaches that are older and have been around the block for a little bit, they are they're tired. Okay, they are tired. Now, there's a lot of things that are at play. Take what Mr. C is saying here. Do you think they are talking about keeping Sam Pittman because they think the NIL is about to blow? Well, yes. NIL is a factor here because if you do get rid of him or you agree to part ways. Now, if you mutually agree to part ways, that can reduce the buyout amount that he's owed. All right. But if he were to get fired, I think it's a $12 million buyout for Sam. The thing that I always disagreed with was after the bowl win season versus in the Outback Bowl, I would have never given him the extension that they gave him. But they were hamstrung and they kind of needed to. And I understood the logic behind it, but I would have never done it. Okay, I would have never done it. But it happened. It is what it is at this point. Now, is part of this NIL related? Yes, because you could do what really was the deciding factor for Florida and Billy Napier. They liked the quarterback that they had. They knew he was coming back in DJ Lagway, and they thought that they could build an NIL superpower. And one thing that really helped a lot of coaches that are in the middle tier, and I know Florida doesn't want to admit that they're in the middle tier, but you look at the recruiting rankings right now and their success recently, they are in the middle tier. And you take a look at a program like, let's say, a South Carolina that's going to have a lot of momentum in the coach that they have. There are going to be quite a few programs that look at Ole Miss and say, well, let's not pay this buyout and use some of that money to go towards the roster. All right. I will tell you this. There are two programs that obviously I examine pretty closely. One, of course, is LSU. Arkansas is one as well, but I also follow Ole Miss closely. And I told you the week before Georgia that Ole Miss is the best team in the SEC. Now, they also, of the college football playoff teams, they have the worst loss, of course, at home versus Kentucky. But Ole Miss is the best team in the SEC. What did they do? They spent their ass in the portal. They spent their ass in the portal, and it's worked. The year before, who was the best team that was kind of a middle-ish tier program. They're not middle tier, but you get the point. Florida State. Florida State spent their ass in the portal, and it should have got them into the college football playoff. They went and got the best portal players. They got the best portal wide receiver. They got the best portal to fit the tackle. They got the best portal corner. They got a really good portal linebacker. It worked. Okay? It worked. Okay, type Y for yes, type in for no if you can't hear me or not, because I do have to get to my guest. I hope you guys can hear me, because this is my favorite guest, arguably, that I've had on here, because I can actually hear about high school football at an extremely high level. Arkansas high school football playoffs are going down. We're going to break it all down. Plus, what he's hearing about Arkansas high school football recruiting. Didn't Dental health is wealth, and our friends at Sequoia Dental are looking to help you feel like a more confident person. Dr. William Wilson and his team of experts do everything in their power to make this experience for you not only comfortable, but fun. Yes, take a look at this after and before photo. That guy definitely got himself a date thanks to Sequoia Dental. From teeth whitening to cosmetic surgery to, guess what? Botox. Yes, they do Botox. Call my friend Dr. William Wilson today, or just go book your appointment at sequoiadental.com. Alrighty, you can follow him on Twitter, Kyle Sutherland, one of my favorite Arkansas media members. He is on the sidelines nonstop covering high school football. Let me ask you this. How do you feel about Arkansas's recruiting class for 2025 as a whole?
I'd say probably about how I felt about really, other than maybe 2022, kind of just meh. I think that it's, you look at we used to get really excited, Carter, about 4 stars, and now it's just kind of normal to have those. And while I'm not really like a stars kind of guy, the stats do speak for themselves in terms of, which most highly rated teams that got those highly rated classes are in the national championship or the college football playoff. But all in all, I'm just kind of meh. I mean, you look at the numbers right there, 15th in the SEC. Last time I checked, there was only 16 teams. So, 31st in the nation is not – I mean, that's nothing terrible.
Right.
But when you're in the SEC, it's pretty bad when you're 15th out of 16 teams.
Let me ask you this. As far as the state of Arkansas is concerned, I'm not going to victory lap the Carius Current thing. I really do like Milan. Obviously, I met him after the El Dorado game a few weeks ago. But why are these kids going to Oklahoma? That's what I wanted to ask you.
So I did a pretty big – Marcus Wimberly was previously committed to Arkansas. I actually did a really big story over Amarian Robinson, and this was on I would say probably about 10 days before his commitment. And the one thing that he said, it came down to Arkansas, Oklahoma, and I can't even remember. It was back in like July or August, but it came down to basically like 4 schools. And one of the things that he said that stuck out to me was they're building something special at Oklahoma. While that's not particularly rare for recruits to say, he only mentioned it about that one school. And he also talked pretty in depth about his relation, which Marcus Wimberly was already flipped to Oklahoma. So he talked about that relationship a little bit. I'll be honest with you, Carter, I can't speak for these guys, but to me, I think many of them are unsure whether this coaching staff's going to be there, and rightfully so. Now, I know that Sam Pittman has pretty much all but gotten I don't know if assured is the word, but it's looking like Sam Pittman's going to be back. So right. That is there. Now, whether Bobby Petrino and all that, we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. But I think a lot of it, too, I actually wrote a big story back in February about how Missouri, the way that they are utilizing the state of Arkansas. And I talked to 4 high school coaches, and all of them essentially said that other schools are doing a much better job than recruiting the state of Arkansas than the University of Arkansas.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you don't have to say who. I mean, well, you can't say who, obviously.
Yeah.
But
it was public knowledge. I mean, I quoted him. So Sean Cockrell from Valley View was one, which he has Brian Huff at the University of Missouri now, again, from Valley View. Talked to Michael Williams from Pine Bluff, which now Courtney Crutchfield was a Razorback commit. Then flipped to Missouri. Austin Dendy also, which Austin Dendy, his recruiting didn't pick up until a little later just because he had to get his grades in check. But that's essentially what he talked about. Rick Jones, your Wildcats are playing Greenwood this week.
Yes.
Rick Jones, the legendary coach from Greenwood.
Yes.
He's essentially a consultant to Eli Drinkwitz. And every single week he sends out it's like a mailer, and it just talks about keys to success or just little things. And one of the biggest reasons why Rick Jones is such a successful coach both in Oklahoma and Arkansas is because of what he did, how well he did the little things. So it's basically just these tips and tricks type deals that they send to Arkansas high school coaches every week. So they're very involved. You hear a lot about the importance of a former Razorback or just someone with Arkansas ties on your staff. Missouri has a lot of Arkansas ties on its staff. When you think about Brian Early, the defensive line coach, Also, Al Davis. I guess he's like the interior coach, and then Brian Early is like defensive ends, edge rushers. But Missouri, a big reason why they're doing so well in the state of Arkansas is they're putting an emphasis on it. And that's something that I don't believe Coach Sam Pittman and his staff have done fully in their time here. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to high school recruiting like you do for Arkansas. I do obviously for that other team that I cover full time, my Tigers. That's why I don't want to talk too much about Carius Kern, because I know a good bit about everything that happened with that. But that's tough because he's a top 100 guy, man. He almost got a 5th star today. But even with that, I was just like, you're an offensive line coach, and your mentee took the top dog.
Well, and I think, and you would actually, so I actually got on Carius Kern. You would know more about that overall recruiting process. Well, since he's gone to LSU, I haven't really kept up with it as much, especially since he had flipped. But when I first started, I got on him. I did a story on him right as the colleges were getting on him, and I'm sure he's very green. He used to play receiver not 4 or 5 years ago. Carius Kern, massive offensive lineman, defensive lineman, would play wide. He got bad coaching, essentially 4 or 5, when he was in like junior high and elementary age and stuff, and he was playing wide receiver. So you look at what he does now, the best is only, and then I think that's probably, he knows that, and I know LSU is having some of its struggles right now, but he knows under Brad Davis that he's got a better chance of going to the NFL. And he's definitely getting more. I haven't checked the NIL or anything like that, but I would imagine he's probably getting a little bit more money as well. But he knows that he's going to be able to go to the NFL probably a little bit, and it's crazy to think that Sam Pittman might not get you to the NFL as an offensive lineman. Things have, and not to open up a whole other can of worms, the offensive line I don't think has quite been as bad as some have made it out to be this year.
Yeah, they've been better than last year.
Which is not saying a ton, but but really, to answer your original question, Carter, I really think that I just don't think that Arkansas has had a huge emphasis with this coaching staff. I just straight from the horse's mouth. I mean, I talked to 4 different coaches, and they were all very complimentary of Sam Pittman. Matt Richardson was another one who was at Ashdown that's now at Fountain Lake. He had Ladarius Bishop. He had Busta. Man, I'm forgetting all these names. He's with the Jaguar. Busta Brown, Monteric Brown. He had a lot of. He sent a lot of guys to college, and that's essentially what they said. Is they basically praised Eli Drinkwitz and Missouri a lot, and said a little bit about Sam Pittman.
That's and maybe there's something to that from Arkansas side, because a lot of Arkansas high school players have not been good P4 players. I mean, would you say that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's very fair. I mean, you look at Braylon Russell's been banged up for the last couple, but him, you don't see you don't see a lot of true freshmen. I knew that he only played, which his lingering injuries. It's unfortunate that it's not surprising to me. In 2 years at Benton, his high school coach Brad Harris will tell you he played about 2 games literally 2 or 3 games in 2 years completely healthy, and he still put up over 3,000 yards in 2 years. So he's had some lingering injuries, but Nico Davlier is playing in his redshirt. I guess he's a redshirt sophomore now. Andrew Chamberlain played as a redshirt freshman, but you don't see a lot of these guys coming out contributing. In-state guys especially contributing quite like you saw the Peyton Hillises, the Darren McFadden's, and guys.
Oh the Ben Cleveland, even Mitch Mustang. I mean, like
Damian Williams. Yeah, you just go down the line.
Yeah, and I know like the Springdale thing didn't work out or whatever, but like Cody Burns was good. Michael Dyer was good. I mean, a lot of those guys panned out, but not in recent years. It's not been as good. It's also, before we talk a little Arkansas high school playoffs here, I feel like it has been so much easier to negatively recruit towards Sam Pittman because the constant lingering of, is he going to be fired or is he not?
Sure.
And I'm sure you've probably heard basically the same thing, because if I'm Missouri, I know Eli Drinkwitz is going to be my guy. Missouri's decent this year. They won a freaking Cotton Bowl versus Ohio freaking State. I know a lot of their guys sat out. It is so much easier to negatively recruit Arkansas right now because of the every year lingering decisions of if Sam's going to be the guy.
Yeah, there's no question. And you think about too, it's how many, all the close games that you've lost. And I know that people are getting extremely tired of hearing the same thing in press conferences, but I think that Sam Pittman's just out of things to say, Carter, honestly. I mean, it's kind of like I'm not trying to compare his tick because he's been much more successful than Chad Morris could have dreamed of, but that's kind of what it was with that. Even with Brett Bielema, it's just the same thing just continuously happened over and over again. And that's where you're at with essentially, I think the two of the biggest things is the single digit leads that you don't come out on the right side of, and also to just the simple fact that it's like you show up for one game, maybe one or two games, and then you just completely get blown out for another. And the fact that they've looked so bad at home so many times. And so, yeah, there's no doubt. It's always been pretty easy to recruit against teams that are struggling. In the NIL era, it's just that much easier.
Shout out to Sequoia Dental, the presenting sponsor of our guest. And this is true. Ben Cleveland did cook me on Facebook chat many years ago. I've never shared that publicly. I need to go dig through to see the message. He tore my ass.
Was on publicly or was in your inbox?
I don't remember if it was on like a wall post or anything like that. I was just a young kid trolling the hell out of him, and it was vicious. He put me in a freaking body bag. But I will say I've always been proud of Arkansas's ability to produce tight ends. Yeah, I'll definitely get that. Let me ask you this, since the chat is mostly talking about this. Do you think Arkansas should try to see what they have in Malachi Singleton?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Especially, I mean, once you're probably going to win against Louisiana Tech. Feel pretty good about that game. You're going to clinch a bowl game. I like I was saying earlier, I think you look at, and I don't watch film. I watch a little more high school just because I cover the high school ranks more.
Course, yeah.
I don't break down college film quite to the extent that you do, but I mean, just looking at the little bits that I did, kind of rewatching some things from the game, I saw a lot of things from, the right side of of course, it's obvious what happened. Marion Harris, I love that kid. I covered him from his 9th grade year. He's a great kid, and I hate to see him struggling like he is, but I mean, he needs to get out of there. What was it, 5 sacks that he gave up? Josh Braun, God love him. I know that he's a fan favorite. He's not a good football player to me. He's been average at best. So, some of it is on the offensive line, particularly the right side probably right now to me. But at that being said, Taylen's he's holding on to the – and I thought really – I mean, he's not leaving receivers out to dry quite to the extent that I feel like he was at the beginning of the year. Of course, Tyrone Broden is one that drops a lot. Really, other than Andrew Armstrong, you just don't have a consistent target. Luke is a consistent target, but when he wants to be, but sometimes it just doesn't seem like it's working out there. But I wouldn't be mad about it. I think Malachi Singleton has been I think Malachi Singleton has proven plenty of times that he which one was the game? What was the one that he came in? Was that Ellis? No, Tennessee. I couldn't remember. I'll get them all mixed up now.
Right. No, it's
especially for him to come in that regard, and especially in that regard, I mean, the way that the game was going at that time. So I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I mean, they have a pretty long leash on Taylen. And it's weird seeing Bobby Petrino, the amount of times that Taylen might struggle. And I know he's just the offensive coordinator now, but it's really weird seeing him not go crazy on his quarterbacks when they make a mistake. I really haven't seen that once this year, and that's not something I'm accustomed to.
Okay, let's do it. I'm gonna give you the floor here. Okay, who is winning the 2A state championship in football? Give it to me.
Right now, it's hard to go against Carlisle. You look at the bottom. Yeah, Carlisle is really good.
What is their nickname? What is Carlisle's nickname?
The Bison. 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 Yeah.
Like
so Harding. As far as Harding is Bisons. That's the only one that I know of that's actually plural. So Harding is Bisons. Every other school that has that mascot, to my knowledge, is it's singular.
Oh, singular. So solo Bison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Carlisle Bison. Man, you got Conway Christian that's also which is the only other undefeated team other than Carlisle in that bracket, in that bottom half of the bracket. You've also got Des Arc, who's shown to be really good throughout the year. Junction City, which right this week.
Let's go,
Carlisle
Dragons.
and Junction City.
Let's go,
Yeah,
Dragons.
Our guy Devin Ball and the Junction City Dragons, they go back to Carlisle for the second time. They lost to Carlisle in week 1, so they go there this week for the quarterfinal matchup.
Let's go, Dragons. Do this for Jamario Bell. Do this.
Love
for
me some
Byron
Mario
Jones.
Bell.
Let's freaking go. Okay. 3A.
Man, this is such a cop-out answer, but it's always the most wide open class. I mean, this is probably going to be the only one where it's truly hard for me to give you
Where's the
legit
3A bracket? I can't even find the 3A bracket.
It should be. Yeah, there it is right there. So this week, my top games this week, I got Newport at Mansfield, Salem at Prescott, and then Rising at Rivercrest. I do think it's going to be a team from Region 3, from the 3A. So that would be either Newport, Rivercrest, and then I think Osceola is left. So Osceola this week, they have who is that on the bracket? I can't see quite that small.
Charleston.
Charleston. So Charleston, I think that Osceola probably takes care of them. Newport at Mansfield's a really interesting one because Newport's got all that speed. Keandre Barker, the former Penn State commit, he had like 200 yards and 4 touchdowns last week.
He had a kid committed to Penn State?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, well, man, he's got an interesting story. He was at BB, then he went to the Woodlands, Texas, literally had a cup of coffee at Miami Central, didn't play a season there, came back to BB briefly this summer, and then ended up at Newport. So he's had I don't really know his backstory. All I know, those are the facts, but Newport's got a lot of speed, as does Prescott, as does Rivercrest. Rising plays suffocating defense, but their offense, it's like Harding. If you get in front of Harding, then you probably got them in a good position. That's kind of the same way with Rising.
What about my Fordyce Red Bugs?
Fordyce is another one that I really like too. So if it's not a team from Region 3, I would probably say Fordyce. I watched them play a couple of weeks ago. Carter Cadillac Ellison, 14, 15-year-old freshman, however old, he's the real deal. I mean, I see all these stupid comments about how he's a statue back there and he's a lazy Look, he's a big dude. He's bigger than everybody. That kid can throw, and he's tough to bring down.
As a 14-year-old freshman.
I think he's either 14 or 15, but he's a freshman. At media days that we talked about back in August on here, we had him. We had 64 teams. He was the only out of hundreds of kids. He was the only freshman that came.
A freshman,
and he's bigger. He's pretty much the biggest one on the field ever. I mean, he is massive.
What the hell? What the hell? Okay, so I'm cheering for my red. The only reason is because I have to drive through there on the way to Little Rock tomorrow. I'm gonna take a photo next to the Bear Bryant thing. I think that's Bear Bryant in your own backdrop there. Okay.
Yeah, I do have a picture. Bear Bryant is my favorite coach of all time. Even though he was well before my time, it's my favorite coach. So I've got a picture hanging out back there.
Okay, so we go to 4A.
So 4A, Elkins is. It's hard to pick against Elkins with what they did to Warren earlier. Now that was a different. Warren had just lost their quarterback. They've now they're playing in sync a lot more. I'm going to go with Arkadelphia on this one. I think the Badgers get there because. I think they've got the best. I think they got the best defense in Class 4A. But their sophomore quarterback, Bryson McCoy, he had 5 or 6 touchdowns last week, threw to 4 different receivers. They scored pretty much all their points in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, this defense is filthy. And what have we seen? If you have a filthy defense and an okay offense, then you're going to be in good shape.
Yes,
their offense has just gotten better and better and better each week. And so. I'll tell you, it's hard for me to pick against Elkins, but I'm going to go with the Badgers. I think the Badgers win their 5th state title all time, and I just think that defense is going to be the difference. But that sophomore quarterback, man, they're young, and you talk about them, these young quarterbacks on the biggest stage, kind of like with Cadillac Elson in 3A. I think Bryson McCoy and what he's got around him is ready for it.
Okay, so one of the most underrated comedians in Arkansas, my buddy Juan Morgan, lives in Arkadelphia. He's gonna love that. One of my closest friends lives in Hamburg. Okay, does Hamburg have a shot?
I would say Hamburg is a sleeper right now. It's hard for me to put that. So, and I know again that might be a little bit. They are probably I will say this about Hamburg. To me, they might have had the most impressive win as far as on paper and maybe not expected to take a 5+ hour. They went to Gravette this past weekend, and they it was, I think, on the Yellow Dog, as they call it, the school buses, it was like over 6 hours. So they took that 6 literally, yeah, because it's about 5 hours from down in that southeast corner all the way to the far northwest. So they go there at Peyton's. Listen to this stat line, Carter. Peyton Sellers. He's a senior, got some D2 offers. 5 carries, 131 yards, 3 touchdowns, 20 tackles. He's got like 185 tackles on the season. This kid's just a phenomenal high school football player. And I think he's going to be good at the next level. I like Hamburg a lot. I think they've got a really good running. They got a good rushing attack. They play good defense. You know, their head coach, Blake Johnson's a defensive-minded guy. And I wouldn't put them in the contender category right this second. They might prove us wrong, but they are a legit sleeper. I would say that.
20 tackles, 5 carries, 130. So we got a white Travis Hunter. Let's go.
Yeah, pretty much. Peyton Sellers is his name. Yeah, Peyton Sellers.
Peyton Sellers. Let's freaking go. All right, let's go to 6A here. And you know how extremely biased I am in this spot. But when I told you in text message earlier today that my dear beloved El Dorado Wildcats are going to go up to Greenwood and kick some Bulldog ass, you said, hold your horses, Carter. Your bias is showing. So can my Wildcats get it done versus Greenwood this weekend?
So I love an underdog, but I can't pick against Greenwood right now at the current. You look at so let me throw a few stats here at let me say this first. What Chris Hill has done this year, I mean, I don't know if I'd use the word phenomenal. It's really, really good just because he lost Mitchell Polk. Mitchell Polk transferred to Smackover right before the beginning of the season. Yeah. So in comes Cannon Jacobs. And Cannon Jacobs has been a little bit streaky. That's what you would expect of somebody that is young and wasn't expecting to be the quarterback, but he's done a really good job. A.J. Gilmore, really good receiver. Jeremy Samuels got like 1,300 rushing yards. So El Dorado has really been probably one of the surprises of Class 6A, if you ask me. But you look at this Greenwood team, obviously they lost a player in a tragic house fire a couple of weeks ago. So they're playing for him. I mean, that's one thing. They're playing for their fallen teammate, and they're already extremely talented. So since your Wildcats, I had lunch with Stephen Jones a couple weeks ago, and we talked about that 2021 championship game, of course. Yes. Since El Dorado beat Greenwood in that game, the Bulldogs are 34-3. They have a 23-game win streak right now. Which all 3 of those losses were in 2022. They were undefeated last year, and they're 10-0 this year. They are currently on the state's longest streak at 23, and they've won 68 consecutive games at Smith Robinson Stadium. Kane Archer, I told you what I think about him at the beginning of the season. I mean, his brother Cash is playing phenomenal on defense. Kane Archer is probably the most special high school quarterback I have ever laid my eyes on. I mean, his intelligence in Arkansas, at least, his intelligence. Just how in tune he is with his receiver. I mean, it's just the kid is simply phenomenal. He's got 44 touchdowns. Better
than Mitch Mustaine. Better than the kid that played baseball at Greenwood as well. What the hell was that kid's name?
Well, you're thinking Connor Nolan, who was another. Other than Mitch Mustaine, if there's another one recent, they're probably played for. Tyler Wilson was a phenomenal baseball and football player. But here's why I put Kane over Mitch Mustaine. Mitch Mustaine has, in that identity theft, he talked about it in that documentary. He didn't even really want it quite as bad as other people wanted it for him. Just imagine if Mitch Mustaine would have wanted it. Kane Archer, I mean, football and family is genuinely his life. He breathes it. So I think just the fact that Kane Archer just puts, and I'm not saying Mitch didn't put a lot into it, but he wasn't all there mentally, and he has even admitted that.
Enough with the Greenwood waxing. I cannot freaking wait to see my Wildcats prove Mr. High School. Kyle Sutherland thinks he knows everything. My guy Jacobs, is his dad's a really good friend of mine, is going to go in there and teach Kane Archer how to really play quarterback. Give me the Wildcats by 50 in the name of Bijan Jackson, in the name of Clay Murphy, in the name of John Thomas Shepard, who will be on the call. Give me the Wildcats, baby. Let's go. Take it to the bank. If Vegas had a line for this game, it would be Greenwood by 28.5. But I remember roughly a decade ago, Scott Reed went into Greenwood as heavy underdogs and beat them 24-14, and it was 24-0 before they hit some onside kicks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Give me my Wildcats.
And I'll say this too. Chris Hill has won some weird games.
Yes.
Like now they put, other than Jonesboro and Bryant, El Dorado put more points on Benton and Benton's been the clear-cut favorite in the East. So I mean, yeah, there's been plenty to talk about with this team. I mean, I think they're 6-5, something like that. But yeah, I mean, El Dorado has been, I would probably say that they have been one of the more surprises, because coming into the year, I think I said back in August that they would fight for that 6th seed, and they were fighting for that 4 or 5 seed. So yeah, Chris Hill, he's a great, Chris Hill has been to a lot of different schools, and he's had success just about at every single one of them.
Yeah,
so
he's old school.
And I'll tell you, I wouldn't mind some chaos this week.
Yes. Okay. So we got Lake Hamilton and Benton, old 6A South showdown here. You were talking about great quarterbacks. Philip Butterfield, former Team USA quarterback, was extremely underrated. I would hope it's El Dorado and Lake Hamilton, two programs that I know hate each other's guts. You probably don't know this, Kyle, but back in yesteryear, El Dorado and Lake Hamilton got in a benches clearing brawl in soccer, and there were blows thrown. It was vicious. It was. You probably didn't know that. It happened in the other.
I did not. Well, I remember they played, what was that, 2000, was that Butterfield senior year, 09 or 08, when they played in the state championship?
Yes, they did, and they beat us.
Yeah.
They beat us.
I remember that, because I did a big story. So I did a podcast feature over his high school coach, Jerry Clay, and Philip actually helped me. He did a segment in it just to kind of talk about him. And so,
I've never met Philip.
But I had not. He's a really good guy. I've met him once or twice, and of course we did that podcast together. But yeah, I remember that game, but I did not know about the soccer benches clearing brawl.
Oh yeah, no, it was bad. It was we couldn't. I think they canceled our annual matchup because that's how bad we couldn't handle ourselves. I was part of the brawl. I won't say my role in the brawl, but we'll leave it at that. But I don't know if I hate Benton or Lake Hamilton more, though, because I hate Benton. I will always freaking hate Benton and their super nice facilities, all that BS. But give me the Wildcats by 50. But I know you're going to pick Greenwood to win it all, so we'll move on there. Okay, let's go. I'm just having fun talking about this. I know nothing about these teams. I know like 3 players on El Dorado's team, by the way, and I don't know the coach. I've never met Chris Hill. Okay, yeah. and I'm still involved some with the Wildcats, but I don't know him. Let me see if I could find the damn 5A bracket here.
I think I thought I saw.
Okay, here we go.
There it is. Yeah.
All right. Where are we rolling here?
Well, all right. So kind of like with 6A, it's until somebody knocks Parkview off the mountain. Then you got to pick the back-to-back 5A champions. But I know that we were talking about Amarian Robinson when I first came on, that's committed to Oklahoma. He's been out the past 2 games. He or about the past game and a half with a high ankle sprain. So I don't know his status. He's such a massive part of what they do. He holds, kicks, he punts, obviously plays defensive back, linebacker, wide receiver. He does everything basically except for offensive line. So that's massive if he can't go. Now they have gone to Emmanuel Bunting at quarterback. He's done a great job in the back half of the season. I love Robinson, though. Joe T. Robinson, their secondary is a little bit suspect against the pass.
Wait, who's their mascot? What is that?
The Senators. Joe T. Robinson Senators.
The Senators?
Yeah. Named after the famous Arkansas Senator. And, they've been a juggernaut program. They were in 4A and won a couple state championships, then bumped up to 5A. Last year, they were really banged up. They were really young. They got upset in the first round by Southside Batesville. But I talked to Coach Escola, Todd Escola, their head coach, at the end of the year, and he said, look, this was the year. If anybody's going to get us to get, because we're going to be back next year. And they got a couple of transfers, and they're just really the only thing that I would say about them is they do. And Kevin Bohannon, my business partner, and I, we were talking about this on our podcast episode earlier about how they get caught with their eyes in the backfield a lot. And, of course, Parkview does run the football a lot. They can pass a lot more with Emmanuel Bunting. So that's something to watch. But, I love the Lakeside Robinson matchup. Lakeside was down 17-0 to them and went to Robinson in week 1, and then came back in the second half, played a really, but just came up a little bit short. I know Maumelle really wants a shot at Parkview because they were down. Maumelle was down 9 in week 1 as well to them, and then Parkview came out and just put up like 50 points on them. So I know they wanted
to. Let me interrupt you here. This is what pisses me off about this. Okay, Valley View's mascot is who?
The Blazers.
Okay. Morrilton Bulldogs, right?
Devil Dogs.
Devil Dogs.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'll give them that. Parkview Patriots, Maumelle's mascot is who?
Hornets.
Oh.
And they're formerly Oak Grove. When we were in high school, it was Oak Grove.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Lakeside, it looks like they're the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get down here, a red cardinal versus a red cardinal.
Yeah, a red cardinal versus like kind of not a burgundy. What would that be? Like maybe one's like kind of a Razorback red, I guess. And
Camden Fairview is still red. They just messed up the shades here. This is stupid. Yeah. Why would we have 2 mascots, 2 red cardinals in the same thing? Leave it to Camden crappy Fairview for this. It's bad, Kyle. You admit it. That's bad.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad that I'm not writing this game because that's one of my biggest annoyances when I'm writing a game story and they both have the same mascot. Because I love, you use you've written something like you use the mascot a lot of the time. So that way you're not repeating the name of the school or the town or whatever. So yeah, I'm just glad that I'm not going to be writing. This will be, one of those guys up in Northwest Arkansas who writes this.
Okay. So I'm going to give you my bold prediction for 5A. Okay. Nick Vaughn and the Fairview Cardinals shock the world and win the state championship.
I covered them against Harding Academy last week, Carter. This is a really good team. They did beat Harding Academy pretty soundly, but their defense, like it was 2 scoop. They had 2 scooping scores in like 50 seconds to close out the second half. So that was really the big difference in the ball game. But yeah, Nick Vaughn, man, he's done a great job, and I love Nick. I know you obviously know him from his El Dorado days. He's a great friend of mine. I mean, he's a great dude, and
he's one of my closest friends. So I'm very biased. So true, El Dorado grew up. Camden Fairview was our top rival. Okay, by far. Yeah. But I can't be mad at Camden Fairview because I have a lot of friends that went there, and Nick is one of my good friends. So, in my biased opinion, Camden Fairview is going to win it all. Just going ahead and mark it down. So now we leave the filet mignon left. 7A state champions will be Bryant.
Yeah, that's my pick. I'll tell you, I'm really intrigued by that PA Fayetteville game. PA, they have really surpassed expectations. We knew that Little Rock Christian and PA would compete when they moved up to Class 7A, but I think Little Rock Christian is about where we expected. About that, they got that 5th seed and they got bounced in the first round. They're just not quite there yet. PA has really exceeded expectations, and really, other than the Conway game, I mean, they have played lights out. Their defense, it was 51-7, and Harbor's not very good, but they were up 51-7 at halftime on Harbor this past Friday night. So, Brandon Cobb, what they're doing, a lot of teams, Carter, is they're dropping 8 essentially, and then Brandon Cobb, who's a pretty fast quarterback, he's got a lot of height on him too. He's just tucking it and running it, and that's what they've done all year, and he's run it a lot more this year. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to go. I'll just go ahead and say it. I didn't pick it on my pot, but I'm going to say I'm going to go Fayette or PA. I think is going to go up and beat Fayetteville. I genuinely I'm just going to say it. I think that they're going to. I just don't know that Fayetteville is still a really good team. And I know I've had a history of sleeping on. I mean, 3-4 years ago, I was on the record saying I don't know that Casey Dick can get it done. He is beyond proven me wrong on that. And I love Casey Dick. I got a ton of respect for him, both as a football player and a coach. But I think Pulaski Academy is just playing more consistent ball right now. And, as long as they don't go up there, and I mean, this team's obviously had a lot of success, but as long as they don't go up there and, maybe get down a little bit early, I think that playing an extra week is going to benefit them a little more. I just feel really good about it. Bentonville, I do feel pretty good about taking care of West this week. They beat West in week 10, so they'll play them twice in 3 weeks. Conway, Rogers, I think that could be an offensive shootout, but I really do think this could be the year that Conway and Bryant do meet for the state championship. That run that Bryant had of 5 in a row, it was never there was so many chances for a rematch in the final, but Conway just fell. They've lost in 4 consecutive semifinal rounds. I think this is the year that they could get over that hump, as long as they don't hiccup. The bye week. That's always the question this year, this time of year. Is the bye week going to help you, or is it going to hurt you?
Yeah, that's what's weird, because you don't get bye weeks in all the divisions.
Right.
And Bryant Cabot is tough. So you have Bryant, the best last name ever made. Shout out Kobe. And you also have Cabot, who's coached by my really good buddy, Scott Reed.
Yep.
Okay, so 33-32 versus Springdale. That's what happened.
Well, and they won. So Scott Reed, man, playoff Scott Reed is just a different breed. No rhyme intended. I mean, I think this is probably. This is probably his. It's not most talented team since it's been at Cabot. Let's call it what it is, and a lot of that is because of injuries. A lot. He had a Cooper Powell is banged up. That was one of his top. He tore his ACL in like week 1, week 2. This is no slight at the kids. Obviously, they got a really good offensive line, but they're just compared to the teams that he's had since he's been at Cabot, this is probably the one that has the least amount of depth. I guess that's the best way to say it. But he's just different in the playoffs, man. I mean, that's just how. And they won on a field goal. They kicked a 23-yard field goal with about 20 seconds left, something like that. So
crazy.
Now we got a Cabot rematch.
He won a state championship in the semis, kicking one of those. Scott, man, I love Scott. He's a friend of mine. I always will be a friend of mine. His sons are still friends of mine. And Brian, my former broadcast partner, actually runs their whole broadcasting thing. But most people would say Brian is going to roll.
Yeah, I saw Brian. Yeah, that's pretty much my take too. Is just I think that it could be Bryant and Conway. I guess I didn't finish that up. I covered the Bryant Conway game a couple weeks ago, and Bryant, they had consecutive turnovers, and that's what really gave them the kick in the butt, and they scored 42 unanswered. So Bryant, right? See, people forget this time last year, Bryant was really banged up right now, and they lost. Not to take anything away from Bentonville for beating them in the semifinals, but this Bryant team was really banged up. They're for the most part pretty healthy, and they're clicking on all cylinders.
God, I love Arkansas high school football so much. It's my favorite thing because it's so much about the love of the game, and that's what I love about it. That's why you cover it. Like, you don't do as much Division I college football stuff. Appreciate you, Kyle. I know I kept you pretty long here.
Oh no, man! Always enjoy it. Always enjoy coming on.
Man, I am pumped up for my Wildcats. I went to the end of the game this past week and were able to hold off Russellville. Really happy about that. And I'm really excited to see what Junction City and Camden do this weekend as well. Follow him at K_Sutherland. That's SUTHERLANDAR, and check him out on 103.7 The Buzz and Gridiron's Icons AR as well. Kyle, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you, big dog.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. Always enjoy it.
All right. Man, I love high school football, and I love Arkansas high school football. As you can tell, I played Arkansas high school football, and it's fun. Okay, I understand that's not the point of this channel. It should be Razorback all the time. But I think some of you are always interested in your small town Arkansas team. Yeah, Jay, it's been very easy to negative recruit them, and I know firsthand that some of that was used. Now, I forgot to bring this up to our guests, but yeah, the actual brawl was in basketball. Okay, it was actually an El Dorado basketball player was stabbed with a pencil. Shout out Will Boyer, and There were some brawls in soccer as well, red cards, all that good stuff. Maybe I'm misremembering stuff because I have terrible memory. But yes, El Dorado and Lake Hamilton do not like each other. Not as much as it used to be when they played each other every single year. Unbiased Brim says, I know we have a better quarterback in Singleton. Here's the thing about this, Unbiased Brim. This is part of why I think Malachi Singleton should play. Is actually the opposite of what you said. All right. It's that you don't know. That's why I would play Malachi Singleton. It's that you don't know. Okay. Now, since we are on the topic of Razorback Arkansas news, shout out to Washita Baptist. They won the Battle of the Ravine, and they will be in the they will be in the D2 playoffs. Excited about that because they were a part of the most embarrassing loss in maybe all of college football this season. They're the national number 3 ranked team, and they lost to Southern Nazarene, and they were 0-8, and that made national news. And that happened, I think, 2 weeks after they beat Harding, who was on a 59-game winning streak. Am I biased towards Washita because they're Purple Tigers? Yeah, sure. But I have a really close friend that plays on that team. So I am cheering for Washita to go all the way this year. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about the pressures with the Arkansas pass protection. Look, from a film standpoint, the offensive line and pressure issues were 10 times worse. Yes, you're hearing me correctly. 10 times worse with KJ last year than what it is this year. Okay? It's still not great, but the offensive line in 2023 is the worst SEC offensive line I've ever seen. TAYLEN Green's pass protection is not bad. It's not great, but I don't think it's atrocious. And look, I wasn't the only one who said this. There were other big Arkansas media brands that, and ironically, my film study from this past weekend was one of my lowest viewed film studies. And a lot of people accuse me of clickbait and all of that. So, you can actually go look for the views yourself. I was shocked. I thought a lot of people would watch. I think a lot of Arkansas fans have kind of moved on to basketball. I get it. But there weren't as many people that watched this last Arkansas versus Texas film study. I think some people just kind of given up, which is fine. But it was also longer, and I went into deeper detail about what I would have done if I were TAYLEN Green. Obviously, I'm not 6'7" and fast. I am 5'7" and chubby. Okay. I run a 5'8". He runs a 4'6". So it's different. He probably actually runs 4'4". And I probably run closer to 6'2". But whatever the case may be, let's be honest. Okay. And I'm looking at each and every one of you. Come in close. Okay. The offensive line is not the problem. And I understand I've been labeled a KJ Jefferson homer. And I always will love me some KJ Jefferson. But his offensive line was 10 times worse than what it is now. Should it be better? Yes. But let me also include that Texas's pass rush is really damn good. So you can make a strong case that Arkansas played in back-to-back weeks the 2 best pass rushes in the SEC. Now, South Carolina's got good pass rush. You also played A&M earlier this year. They tore your ass up in the trenches. You have had a murderer's row of really good pass rushes. Okay? LSU's gotten really good pass rush this year. So not only do I feel the Arkansas offensive line play has been better, you have also played a tougher run of pass rushers. It's just the truth. Okay? It's not me saying this. Go look at PFF. Go look at the people that know more about football than I do. There are a lot of pass rushers that you have played in the recent weeks and throughout the course of the season. Hell, I didn't even include Tennessee. You just happen to have played all the elite pass rushers outside of playing Texas or outside of playing South Carolina. Okay? You also avoided Kentucky. They have a good defensive line, but the point still remains the same. This has been a really damn good year for SEC defensive lines. I felt last year wasn't as good as this year. Actually, I don't think it was close. Okay? I don't think it was close. Let's go to 360. He needs to transfer and give someone else a chance. He is not the future TAYLEN Green. Okay. This is the thing I don't understand. Why, when you have a ridiculous amount of evidence showing this to be true. Why do people want Taylen Green to transfer? That makes no damn sense. Okay, it makes no damn sense. Let me include a very important piece of information here that I think would change the minds of quite a few of you. All right. I cannot tell you how many SEC quarterbacks I have seen where people think they are bad, but they come back for another season and turn a page as a player. This happened at Arkansas with Brandon Allen. Brandon Allen, in many ways, was bad. Okay, and it'd be justified. There's a lot of justified criticism of Taylen Green. But why, if history tells you that a somewhat good quarterback, and I think at the bare minimum, we could say Taylen Green is good. If you don't want to do good, I think we can agree that he's decent. I don't think you could just come out and say he's ass or trash or anything like that. He's decent. How many times in the SEC have we seen a decent quarterback the next season become an NFL level quarterback? So it's okay if you're like me and you want to see Taylen Green get the bench and allow Malachi Singleton to see what you have versus Louisiana Tech. But this idea that a lot of fans want to see Taylen Green just out of the program altogether, it's crazy. It's crazy. All right. Once again, Stetson Bennett was viewed by many Georgia fans as not great. They didn't want him back. He comes back. You see what he does. He wins 2 natties. Brandon Allen had his truck burnt to a crisp. Okay. And that list of quarterbacks, wait, one day I'll show you the emails, DMs, messages I got for some of my defenses of Jaden Daniels. Now, Taylen Green is not going to be Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels in his first season at LSU was better than Taylen Green in his first season at Arkansas. But the point is there was an overwhelming amount of LSU fans that didn't want him to stick around. This happens at so many different FCC schools. Experience matters. Okay? Experience matters. You want to run it back. Now, are there some horror stories about running it back with experienced quarterbacks? Yes. Ask an Auburn fan with Peyton Thorne, who had better receivers, a better offensive line. Well, not a better offensive line, but still, he returned his best running back, best tight end, better receivers this year, and he has still been a whole bag of ass. So, yeah, you can run it back and that guy still be ass. But I do think the odds are in your favor that he gets better. Okay? I do. I really do believe it. Especially with Bobby Petrino as this play caller. You're telling me I get Luke Haas back? I get Isaiah Satania back? Run it back. Sure. Pooh Bear, what's good, bro? Thanks for all the love on the Twitter. Appreciate it. All right, y'all. I am running out of gas. It is look at Casey texting me. Your boy Kyle knew his SHIT. My goodness. Like, I don't know how Kyle Sutherland knows as much about Arkansas high school football. I say I love Arkansas high school football. I love the teams. I love the tradition. I love it. I don't love it like he does. Holy crap. He knows all these he talks on every single coach. Now, of course, I have my biases for the guys that I played for and played against, and sure. But, you know, I'm cheering for Cabot, but I can't. They're playing Bryant. I like Bryant. I got friends that work at Bryant. Cheering for Camden Fairview, which makes me feel sick. Woo Pig, what's good? I got turned down by Woo Pig today to have them on the show. So F them. 85% say Singleton should start for Louisiana Tech. If I had tomatoes to throw at Woo Pig right now, I would do it. I would do it. Okay. Now, I do have an announcement here at the end. I have a huge, and I mean huge, meeting tomorrow in Little Rock. Yeah, I'm going to Little Rock tomorrow. And it's a potential opportunity that could take us to the next level. I'm really pumped up about it. So I need your thoughts and prayers. And if you don't believe in a higher power and a metaphysical, once again, we welcome all faiths, religious backgrounds, all that stuff. But give your boy a big shout out and prayer for that, because I'm super pumped up, because I believe that this could be big for us. It could be big. Okay. No, I think Sam Pittman wants Taylen Green to be his guy. So I honestly think this game will determine the future of Arkansas football. Oh, Biff Pokey got fired at Charlotte. Biff Pokey got fired. Interesting. Oh, the game is in Dallas tonight, and the stadium ceiling. Did y'all see this? Stadium ceiling fell. Oh, they've got freaking video. Y'all, Taysom Hill and I are almost the same age, and what he did this weekend was insane. Biff got fired. Yes, a piece of the ceiling fell in Dallas. But if y'all want to see someone really tear into Taylen, go watch Woo Pig. They're ruthless. I think I'm ruthless. Okay, I think I am ruthless in my Arkansas analysis. Okay, I think I'm ruthless in my LSU analysis. It's a team that I actually care the most about. What? That's all we asking for. I appreciate that. Going to Little Rock. I can't wait, man. Where am I going? Am I going to Big Orange? Is that the place to eat? Y'all let me know in the comments down below. Ass Power Hour. SAC. Boom. And tonight we are doing chicken enchiladas. Now, one final thing. If you're in Northwest Arkansas and you switch your family's dental plan to Sequoia Dental, I'll Venmo you $50. Once again, if you're in Northwest Arkansas, doesn't matter how many people are in your family. You could be a single person and you switch your dental to Sequoia Dental, I'll Venmo you $50. On the spot. That's all you got to do. Sequoia Dental, sequoiadental.com.